did. You probably haven't had time. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Got it. We got it. Okay, we're good. We got it. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
On Hills, what I sent in the other day, it was Hillsborough's Planning Commission.
Mhm.
Make a note of this. It was just a question that came back to me later, and it
Okay.
was about President Bennett. It's on page 2. President Bennett is talking about he was a part of the attorney firm for the Birch Commercial Development. And it went on and on and on. Last sentence, they had no further legal interest in representing any and did not feel there was anything. The transcriber, I think it was Maddie. I'm not sure who it was. She had the word in, they had learned from their prior representation that would prevent an impartial decision. I changed their and they, and I said he and his. And I said, okay, I did it. And then, about 7 hours later, I thought, I'm not sure if that pronoun needed to be changed. And I didn't go back in. So out of curiosity, but my brain registered that was his personal decision. So that's just, hi guys, I'm just throwing that out just as something, no big deal,
Yeah.
but it was just a question. And I got to thinking about it later and I think, no, that was his personal decision. I think we could have couched it that way. He and his, I wasn't sure. And I thought, you know what? So I jotted it down out of curiosity.
No, it's a great clarification. And the thing about Hillsborough, and I don't have the share up yet, but
That's right.
On Hillsborough, we have that little, it's in the description. It talks about, please note the gender neutral requirements for that. And that's why there is removal of all female and male pronoun references. Everything is they or there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
Which can be challenging for writing certain things. At least it's a little more murky as far as how your grammar goes, but
yes, I've noticed.
Yes, it's challenging, right, Claire?
It's not my favorite thing. It's not, it's my father, who's written for a very long time, and he's an economist, so he writes completely different things, but he's always very big on teaching us how to write, reading good literature and making us read the paper. When I was telling him about this, he actually got angry. He was like, so what are you supposed to, you're just supposed to forget everything you know.
Oh, no, really?
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's challenging. Okay, so I just want to get us off and running to the races here today. I am going to take a minute. One of our newer transcriptionists and one of our newer clients, I'm going to review some key things from Redmond, the city of Redmond today. Yeah. And I think, it'll cover a gamut of things. Some of the things I comment on, we might have touched on previously, but I see this sometimes as newer transcriptionists are coming on board and they're looking at how they introduce a topic. The city of Redmond is one of those clients where we can do a little more summary, less is more for them. They just want the gist of it down because they're backed up with their video and the audio, which they make available to the public. However, public records law, we have to have written minutes available. So I was just going to take a minute, excuse me, gum, to review some key things that you may or may not have seen. I know you guys that are on here today are a little more experienced, but it's always good to kind of touch base on a few things. And as always, informal, raise your hand, wave your hands. Actually, I never remember the little raised hand feature, but spaz out if you need to get my attention, and we'll just take questions as they go. So let me share screen. All right. So this is the DURAC. It's basically their downtown urban renewal agency. Redmond has about, they have a half a dozen, maybe 8 different boards and committees that we do every single month for them. And so on the left is the original, and on the right is what I have marked up like a mean old English teacher. So One thing, and I think we talked about this last time, but just as a quick review, if you're seeing, you can see this on the left side. These are the double lines I was talking about when Word just points out, like in this case, there's an extra space. Well, we know that's better. It's just a typo. So as you're getting ready to submit your documents, if you just do a quick scroll through and look for those little double lines, that'll indicate, you know, an extra space between things. It will indicate where a comma should or should not be attributed. It can kind of just help save the proofing process a little bit, just to make you aware of that. And we kind of talked about that last time. So as we're going through, one thing, just the highlights, a lot of times people will overemphasize, it's a really great event. We don't need that extra in there. We can just say it's a great event. And you'll see even Word a lot of times will catch those extra words and try to eliminate them. Sorry, I think this is getting squished by there we go. All right. Getting squished by all of this, too much stuff on my screen. As we're going through, once, you know, Ms. Gasner is the one that's doing the reporting, we don't need to continue saying, you know, she noted, she stated, she clarified is fine, but we're eliminating some of these extras so we can just be very direct. We know that she's talking, so we assume she's still talking. I included the she added in the original. Let's see. Update C. Okay. In the original, she talks about, you know, it was really well attended first Friday. You know, it's very conversational, but again, we want to cinch that up, remove the pronouns where we can. Okay, so now to the meat of it, as we say. So in this introduction for the staff report, a lot of times I'll advise our team to use the introductory comments by staff many times, as most good presenters do. They'll go, this is what you can expect in my presentation. This is what's coming up. And they go, we're going to review X, Y, and Z. I'm going to give you some background on the location, as you can see here in the yellow. And then Mr. Wilhite is going to have his presentation on the proposed project and to discuss the funding request. So she's in this yellow highlight, she's introducing the topic. And in this case, the transcriptionist just used that as her, that's the only thing, that was her intro. It's really clunky when you read it that way though, right? And I apologize, I keep telling myself I'm going to remember to zoom this up for you guys, but I forget. It's just a little clunky because it sounds like, yeah, it sounds like it's the reporter reporting on a reporting. You know, the tense is all wrong and it's clunky. So what I did was I went ahead and changed it to the blue, and maybe it'd just be best to have you guys kind of take a couple minutes, read that for yourselves, and then we can discuss comments, changes, what the heck, why did you do that?
Well, I think she's just got a lot of superfluous little things like that for tonight, and a couple little things I've seen in here. This evening, I mean, you know, we know what we're talking about. We know where we are, a little background on the location.
Right.
I think it's more, I think it's, to me, it's more conversational. I think it just needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
Some of that, I mean, we know it's tonight. We're here.
Right. And I think
One
the
thing.
way her verb tenses are,
they're off.
introducing what's going to happen when in fact that is what happened. She
Yeah.
Right.
introduced,
Her
she didn't talk
vote
about introducing the proposal. She introduced the proposed project. She did overview the renewal plan and the purpose of the loan program. And she reviewed the subject loan request. So it's more of like couching it in, this is what she presented. It's still highlighted. I really didn't change much. Most of you who've seen me proof all of these struck through things are me typing in things I think that might need to be filler, but really all I ended up doing was, I guess, repurposing her paragraph. And
Yeah.
really all it does is reflect what happened, not what she was going to do, because we,
Right.
like Arlene said, we're in the meeting. This is what happened.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of it's kind of a quote unquote sheet. You know, if you're going into the staff reports, all of our cities except for Wilsonville want a summarized staff report. And when you have a great presenter that's going to give you what's coming, man, capture that, take advantage of it, go for it. And then, you know, it's just finessing those verb tenses so that we're in the present, we're reporting on what happened, and then we can get on with it. She highlighted the proposed project. We talked about that. There were some missing components, like it was a key part of the revitalization efforts on 4th Street, and it was surrounded by other urban renewal program investments. This is all about investing into their downtown. And so it's a slap on the, not a slap on the back. It's a, my brain is not functioning fully today, and I'll explain why later. It tips their hat to the fact that they're investing this urban renewal program, which is very controversial in a lot of cities, at least in Oregon, that it's doing well. It's revitalizing their downtown. It's helping businesses where they need help. And so that's why I added that. And then of course, you know, we always want to talk about cost, like the project cost is 700, the loan is only for 100,000, right? So that's why, excuse me, that was all rearranged, if you will. Any comments about that and how we shorten up that staff report?
Can I just ask, so she stated the urban renewal plan includes, which should be included, right? Included about 4.9 million in the property assistance program fund. So because that's not part of this particular loan request, did you take that out of the
Great
summary?
question. The reason I took it out of the summary is I use this sentence. She's talking about the urban renewal plan, includes its like background on the urban renewal plan.
Yeah.
And that was covered when we said she gave an overview of the urban renewal plan.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay. Because anytime I see a specific dollar amount or hear specific dollar amounts mentioned, I want to put that in, but okay. She reviewed what the urban revitalization or renewal plan was.
Right.
And that covers that. Okay.
And to that point also, and you guys don't have the benefit of hearing all the audio, so it's challenging, I understand. But the 4.9 million talks about the property assistance program fund. And it really, the money for this particular project came out of a fund within that fund. It was just layers and layers of funds and budgeting and convoluted bleh. So we cut all that out. We reviewed the program or reviewed the renewal plan. That covered all of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. And then anything else on that part?
No, but immediately below there, where you begin with Mr. Wilhite, is it noteworthy, or is it worthy enough to not have struck a Bend resident since 1997?
Yeah, I went back and forth on that. I think because he's in, so I defaulted because of the relationship between those two cities. Bend is like a bigger city. Redmond's kind of like, it's not a suburb, but anyway, that's how it went to that. When in doubt, type it out. very well in another 3 months, I probably would have deleted that part. So that is one of those nuances that is just kind
No.
of weird.
Everything else makes perfect sense. And I understand to Claire's point about the 4.9 million now, but that jumped off the page at me. And I was like, that seems almost like superfluous. But now that we're talking about the spatial relationship between the two cities, that makes some sense. Okay.
Right, right. So staying on the thing of staff reports, I'm gonna leave Redmond for just a second. I'm in the middle of proofing a different document for the city of Wilsonville. And that is a development review. In that case, their staff report is more detailed when it's in a hearing. It's different when it's a work session, but it's a public hearing. In this case, they're reviewing a new gas station and convenience store. And I know those of you who don't have Wilsonville will be extraordinarily jealous of this. So apologies, there it is. Most of their staff actually put notes on their slide deck. And it's wonderful to be able to copy and paste that. However, they don't always stick to the script. And so if you're ever covering for a Wilsonville, you still have to defer to the audio. In my case, I have copied and pasted, and then I listen to the audio. I remove what's not relevant. A seasoned presenter, a seasoned planner will just give you like the highlights of a huge bunch of notes, right? Whereas a newer planner will read every single word just like they typed it. And then that's easy, cut and paste. But we are responsible for the audio. There's nothing worse than cut and copy. And I'm sure you understand the integrity behind that. You know, if you cut and paste notes from a PowerPoint and that's not what they're stating, that gives me gray hairs and a heart attack. I'm just saying. So don't cut and paste notes for the sake of saving time. We're all about the audio. So I'm sure that goes without saying, but that gave me a heart attack today. So that's why we prove. That's why we edit. Okay. So another thing with, I find especially as team members come from the verbatim world, I tend to see one sentences in bullets. And so when this transcriptionist is talking about this development, I'm sorry, are you guys, I'm gonna just minimize. Okay, so when you guys are talking about this, he's introducing this development that he has. The original submission was, you know, his highlights of this presentation, which is still clunky. I mean, he's talking about, he went on literally for 5 minutes about how wonderful he was. That's what people do. He's trying to get his credibility in, but we don't care about custom homes or the fact that you were a landscaper. Now you're doing a development in downtown. So the only thing I retained was the fact that he had this building owned and developed in downtown Bend, because he is actually developing in downtown Redmond now. We just want to keep the parallel. Otherwise, I just captured all of that of, you know, he reviewed his professional background and business experiences. That's all they need to know. People can listen to the audio. Okay. So highlights of his presentation included, I would say this is a little skinny. It's okay to be a little more robust as we're building up to anybody's presentation. So I kind of couched it as he presented the blacksmith project, which is the title, excuse my scrolling, the title of the project up here out of the agenda item. Presented it via PowerPoint and responded to general questions with these comments. So we went through all of these one sentences, they're here in pink, okay? And then I just included them all up in this one summary paragraph. He's just indicating what's going to be on the property.
Reads better. Reads better.
Yeah. And a lot of questions were in and among. So as he's presenting, you know, people were interject with a question, and that's a great way of adding this, and responded to clarifying questions from the board with these comments, or responded to general questions. This is where you can set up your bullets. So when they're asking a simple question, it doesn't involve, it's just a clarification question, like on a site plan or on architecture, or how many square feet you have. All of that stuff's in the packet, first of all, but it's just easier to shorten it a lot by including this and responded to clarifying question or general questions. And then it's just simply a bullet point in this busyness, like he confirmed 95% of the building, blah, blah, blah. Then you can use confirmed and clarifying rather than the whole he said, she said, and take up half a page to answer a simple question. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And in this case, Gasner come back in and added more information about loan funding. But then they had more questions. The direct had more questions for him. So I just set that up again as responded to additional questions from Dirac. I've noticed with her writing style, she kind of leads in, you can see the orange, she leads in with the question when asked how he sees the tap house and eatery, blah, blah, blah. I find with minutes, it's great to have the speaker like right against the left margin, because I don't know, it just, to me, it's a little clearer from the record. It's not like we're reading a narrative. It's like what is stated, what's happening, who is talking, because that informs me about what they're talking about. I know if it's Mr. Millwhite, it's the applicant. He's either responding or clarifying, or he's making a request or what have you. If it's staff, same goes. I can kind of start imagining, or at least putting into context what their comments are going to be.
Can I ask, it's hard without seeing the audio, and I wonder, me, I drift back and forth between providing way too much and then summarizing way too much. But the project had a competitive advantage over other options in Richmond because of the 4,000 square feet of additional indoor space available with a tall ceiling. It will be a big place, so I try to write around starting sentences with it.
Yeah,
but,
agreed.
So I would put, which would allow for people to come in and keep the food trucks busy in colder weather. The coffee bar would be open all day and a limited alcohol menu would be available. And like I would combine all more of that.
Yes, I love you, Claire. Absolutely. And so this is great. Like, it's great for me as well, because I know in the heat of this, I was crunching on my own deadline, and I kind of defer. So, and this is where we get into writing style. And what you said is not incorrect, Claire. Dialed it in spot on. It would have been a lot better flow than what you're seeing here as submitted. So I totally accept that. Totally accept that. My reason for, I guess I erred, kind of hindsight, I erred in that direction because it was kind of how the applicant was speaking.
Okay.
He made this point and then he made another point. It's going to be a big place for people to come in. And, so what you said was not wrong. This was just one iteration. Definitely could have removed more its, absolutely.
On that, though, like, I'm doing a Wilsonville meeting right now.
Mm-hmm.
And just on that, where the speaker clearly places emphasis on certain words and there's an implied meaning, but they don't specifically or explicitly explain, but I know what they're saying. For example, in this meeting, the chair says that he would like more focus on the youth representative and then says, and I did focus in on the word youth representative. And he clearly means that he would like to see more than one representative of the youth, but he doesn't say that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. And maybe I should go back and make it more like yours, where I just kind of type out, he zeroed in on the term youth representative. Because he didn't say
Yeah.
explicitly.
There's two ways you could go with that. Just like so off the cuff. And of course, after I listen to it and send it back to you, the conversation, we can talk about that next week. But I would say just blue with a timestamp, do I need this additional information? But you could also say, and again, I'm just trying to shoot from the hip here. He emphasized that youth representatives should be more involved, blah, blah, blah,
Okay.
That's one idea. Again, without looking at it, without hearing it, that's where I'm going with that, but I don't know. Okay, so anybody else have any comments? I know we've kind of hit some
not so much of
high-level
the
stuff.
staff and applicant, but I do have a question based on the beginnings of the West Lynn document that I did today. And so I don't know what you have still queued up to discuss, but I did want to ask you something on that. That's not one that you're physically present for, is that? I don't believe you are.
Correct. No, I'm not physically present for that one. So Chris, can we come back to that? I just have a couple quick little things and then we're done.
Of course, I'm sorry.
Done with direct. No, it's good to get it on there. So the other thing is just mimicking what samples, what your sample shows you as far as how minutes are reflected. Like for instance, in this instance, the transcriptionist went ahead and noted that it passed. There was none opposed, none abstaining. Well, that is unanimously. And in looking at the sample, that's all they asked for. They don't need to, you would delineate if like 4 were in favor and Chair Calvin was opposed, as we've talked about in the past, but just reflect what your committee is already doing, because that's what they're used to. So unanimously is just fine.
Okay, good. That answers my question that I emailed you the other day that you responded to me. That answers that question. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you bet.
And that was on banks.
And then sometimes, I know this kind of tips to our proofers, but also, and this transcriptionist is newer. So, I think, I don't know if it's, well, just everybody just read this sentence that's crossed out. It's right here.
It's a little superfluous.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the fact that there's an awful lot of stuff immediately underneath it, not delineated by an underlined statement or a C.
So, she made a presentation. I think maybe it goes back to our early conversation. So maybe this is again, duplicative, but, Gassner made a presentation via PowerPoint. Well, she presented the staff report. I mean, it's almost like you said, it's a little too fluffy, superfluous, but we're already, if we can change that tense, we're setting up this little short sentence to make a lot more sense. She presented the staff report via PowerPoint, noting blah, blah, blah. And then you can just do your little tiny summary sentence and you're done. But I'm seeing a lot of those. And I don't know if it's a shift in language, if it's a change in, trends. I mean, we all have seen language trends change, which is crazy, but it's there. So anyway, I would just prefer to eliminate of the in a sentence, if at all possible.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions before we jump to Chris?
No, I was just going to say, when you start the between of those and that's when you get dialed in. For me today, it was about 7 cups of coffee, and then all of a sudden that started jumping off the page. like literally now. And just for you ladies who don't know my mother is that Nazi. Okay, she despises that, and she's called me out on it for most of my writing career. But
Yep.
they don't jump off the page, man. They were coming at me in 3D today. I was like, what? It's like bugs. I don't know. And of this, the same thing. But some of it too is the speaker, because, which leads to my point. Whenever you're done, Paula, I'll get into that. But it does, when you start to tune into it, it does jump off the page. But sometimes, and I know this as a writer, you go back and reread what you just put all this passion and heart and everything else into, especially if you're doing something from a creative point. I can't speak as much from a transcription point. And you go, oh my God, that's hot garbage. What was I smoking when I wrote this? And it's stuff that you're like, I literally haven't moved from the chair, but I'm looking at this and it sounded so much better in my head. So yeah. My question is a little specific, and it is about the West Lynn that I was working on
Okay, I'm going to pull that up just a quick
today.
second.
It's just that first. But there's a lot of passion in that crowd right now, because apparently there was a city council rule that they were trying to eliminate any sort of written comment being written into the record.
That's trouble right there.
Well, so we've got, first off, the whole meeting was a bit of a dumpster fire, because they were falling all off the agenda. This person didn't know what motion to do this, and then they had to do this, and then the mayor had to put in her 2 cents, and then anyhow.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
There's a lot
July
of
11?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So there's a lot of passion in the crowd as well when they do open it up for comments. So my question kind of pigeonholes off the staff report, where we do want to give a summary, and we're looking for a summary. But in this particular instance, and I realize we're painting with a very specific brush in this instance, when we have comments from the audience, as disjointed as they may be, are we trying to take those verbatim? Because they would not have been very good verbatim, but especially in this instance where we're talking about an unpopular rule that's attempted to be forced through by the city council, these folks are really excited. And it sounded to me as though there was at least 2 people in the audience, both of whom commented, that are going to be very, very, very motivated to make sure that their comments get in there. And so I wasn't really sure, kind of where to go with that. The transcription as it was not verbatim. I thought that the transcriptionist did a really good job of kind of boiling this down. But in one case, one woman was reading straight off of a letter, and calling out individuals on the city council, calling out the mayor specifically, calling out the city attorney, just going bonkers.
Isn't this exciting work?
Well, it is, but at the same time, you sort of do understand where they're coming from, because, okay, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of, look, if you don't have a car and you don't have a bike and you can't walk and you don't have a computer, I don't know how active you're going to be in local politics anyhow. But, aside from that, obviously these people who are speaking and sharing these comments are very motivated. But I just, I realize that they're making a big bit to do as citizens of having their statement read into the record. So I just kind of wanted to understand, I understand when in doubt, type it out. But to your point about the staff reports, some of the stuff, if we did it verbatim, it would be virtually unreadable.
Unreadable and like 50 pages long.
Well, there's that too. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I know there's a balancing act, but I just, number one, it was a heads up to you, because I know that, it is a pain in the butt. But number two, it was just how much balance do we give that? So, again, I'm not trying to hide behind one specific scenario or one specific instance, but it did seem like a good trainable point.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Oh yeah, right here with good old Carrie Oakes. She is all kind of fired up.
Did you have something also, Claire, on that point?
Well, I was gonna say this, I ran across this recently with Lake Oswego. They're very, very, very fired up about pickleball. And
gee.
oh no, people were crying. People were
Wow.
crying on both sides. And so
Come down.
I
Draw.
would like some more. It
Oh,
was
my Lord.
very emotional.
Claire.
And then to keep myself sane, I sent some text updates to my parents to let them know that maybe pickleball was a big item, and that maybe they should not take up pickleball. I don't know if they were thinking about it, but please don't, because this is, but it was very, I mean, really crying. And then one woman was very upset about the thought of pickleball being taken away because her husband had Alzheimer's and it was so good for him. And so, yes,
Yeah.
some direction
Every
on
week.
some direction on when it's so emotional and people are
Yeah.
running on and on because they've lost track of their message
Yeah,
in
good point.
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
their
Well,
emotional crisis they're having.
It's
It
it's
becomes
so
an
true.
individual issue. Yeah. It's only they're the only ones in the room. They've got to be heard. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think everything that you three have said bring up a really great point, because they're there to be heard, whether they came by transit or they had to walk 4 miles uphill in the pouring snow, whatever, they're there. And so, it's so sifting out all the emotions, sifting out all of the who said, she said, emotion, no emotion, upset, mad, whatever. We're responsible for the audio, right?
Right.
And so then the next level is, I would say, yes, when they are passionate, when they're upset, then we pull those kind of words out of the toolbox, right? Emphasized, implored, was despondent about, whatever, use the words that we can describe their feelings, their emotional status.
Right.
And a lot of times I will, because then, like Claire said, they start going off and they lose track of what their point is. And that's when I will often default to a compound sentence, right? They were extremely upset about the lack of enforcement on the pickleball courts, comma, the
Right.
teenagers that were spray painting the courts and bathrooms, comma, whatever it is, and then just kind of line that out that way. Every city has had it. Every board has seen one way or the other, if not just from the public, but the board members themselves. And that's the interesting thing with West Lynn, is one of their tried and true persons, this Terry Cummins, this will give you a little bit of insight, she is a former city councilor, and she was not reelected or not reappointed after she filled a term. There's just lots of stuff in the background all the time at these meetings. So she's at almost every meeting telling everybody what they need to be doing, because she's no longer on the council. So, this is what we do. So I'm curious, Letty, I know you have had some experience in this. How do you handle those kind of things? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, with the Astoria meetings here recently, we've been getting people with maybe some mental issues that will speak about talking to the birds or something that's just not even related to whatever the topic is. And I try to stick as close to verbatim as I can while still making the sentence grammatically correct and comprehensible. And where I struggle the most is with that emotional part, getting those emotional words, picking the right word for what they're trying to express when they're just rambling.
Yeah.
But I do have a tendency to just kind of err more towards, like, use their words, but rearrange them maybe, or
it's a tough one. Eliminate repeats.
Yeah.
And then
Clean it
having
up.
that in blue with a timestamp too, because, I've put messages to staff, myself or our proofers are the one step, but then it goes to staff as the next step, and that's what a lot of people, especially if they come from the verbatim world, don't realize that our minutes are read by 15 to 20 people before they even get to the hearing for approval. So when we put a blue timestamp with when we blue fonted a phrase or a sentence or a paragraph, it's like, we don't know what to do with this, and I've used the conversation a couple of times in training is one of our counselors, not a city that we are currently doing right now, but one of the city counselors had said something to the effect like, I've just had enough. Let's just take a gun and get this all over with.
Oh, God.
And like silence on a radio, silence in a meeting, it was just like the air got sucked out of the room. And so I was just, I finessed it as well as I could. I put it in blue with a timestamp. I did not say anything about the gun, but then we default to staff. So when we have mentally handicapped people, when we have irate citizens that are completely blowing a gasket, or they're so emotional, they're completely off track, I think as we've discussed here, try to sift it down to the main points, make it as grammatically pretty as possible, eliminate the repeats, use descriptive verbs, adverbs, everything we can, adjectives, to try to convey the level of their passion, and then staff can clean that up. We are responsible for the audio. If they are putting on airs about who should or should not be heard, if they are disgruntled or concerned about someone be offended by what is stated, that to me, that is the client's deal. We are responsible for the audio, and that is it.
Sure.
Oh,
Does
that's
that make
good
sense?
to know. That's good to know, Paula. That's a good clarification. I
I
haven't
ask-
run up against that at this time, but others have. So that's good clarification for me. I'll call you, Letty.
I think we all have plenty of examples to share with you if you really want some.
No, that's okay. One was enough today. Thank you very much. I appreciate your thoughtfulness.
It's just always startling because I have a lot of trouble working myself up into enthusiasm about anything in public. And so I get it. But I did have just a follow-up question. So covering emotion and covering, implied meaning and things like that. Last week on the pickleball, one of the women was upset about her husband, not the one whose husband needed to play because he has Alzheimer's, but another woman's husband had had a stroke. And so I'm trying to find what I eventually put. She had her husband had this stroke, and so each time pickleball, I guess, makes a very
Distinct noise.
distinctive sound. Yes. And so each time her husband, who couldn't speak because of the stroke, heard the noise, he jerked. But she didn't say he jerked. She said he goes like this. And of course, there's no video for Lake Os. Well, there is video for Lake Oswego, but I was just listening to the audio. So I think I just ended up putting that she demonstrated what did I put?
Nothing you're going to say is not going to be funny to me. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe you'll get to proof this meeting, and then you can hear the president of the
Give me a call,
VA
Chris.
Pickleball Association saying that this is all a setup by the U.S. Tennis Association, because that's where I lost it. He said they're just upset because people started playing pickleball during the pandemic, and once you start playing pickleball, you don't go back to tennis.
Oh, God.
It was great.
Oh.
It was great.
I would say maybe just physically reacted.
Okay. Oh, wait, I put, her husband had a physical reaction to the sound because of his impaired speech, which she demonstrated for the council.
Oh, that's good.
Great.
That's
That-
good.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's like so far from verbatim, because what she actually said was, he like goes like this. So I
Yeah.
didn't know what, okay, so that's, okay.
That's
All
perfect.
right, that's good.
And we're not worried about, and maybe I just need to clarify, we're not worried about being verbatim. We're worried, we want to be accurate to the audio. So you
Right.
can say, and Letty and I have had this conversation over the years, you can say the same thing 5 different ways and it still be accurate to the audio.
Okay,
It kind of comes from writing style. It comes from how the rest of your sentences are structured as you're leading into that. There's a lot of different factors.
Yeah.
But as long as it still reflects what's stated in the audio. If we're trying to, I move away from being verbatim, but we do use their phrases. And I find, I use these phrases and then I create grammatically correct sentences out of them,
Yes.
sometimes polished, sometimes
Yep.
compound sentences. And that seems to get where it needs to be.
okay, I hadn't made that distinction in my head before, so that was, what does Oprah call it, an aha moment? I hadn't made the distinction between being accurate to the audio as being different from
Yes.
verbatim.
I think we're talking about properly paraphrasing, but we're also using enough verbatim to make sure that we're conveying their voice.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so you
what
probably
Chris
couldn't
just
say,
said-
Basically.
Yeah, what Chris just said was what I was trying to get to, yeah, sometimes I am using like exact phrases, but it still has to be accurate to the audio. It still has to be grammatically correct.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
that's why you guys are awesome at what you do. Go team.
and quite frankly, Claire, I may see it if I get it, I may see it, and after listening to it, I may think that it's quite honestly he was twerking, and I may have to change it. And we'll see if Paula catches that. And we'll see if those 15 to 20 people catch it before it gets approved in the minutes.
All right, Chris. Now you
If I'm not on the
got a
call
target
next
on
week,
your
you'll know what
back.
happened.
Okay. We're blinking you off now, Chris.
Okay.
Chris has left the meeting. No, I'm just kidding. But you can't make this stuff up, though, right? I mean, some of
No.
the stuff you
You
just
can't,
people are
but-
people.
I really want to find out what happens with the pickleball court. So
Does that mean you want to
please,
keep Lake O?
yes, please don't assign any LACO meetings to anyone else, because I'm really, and clearly council was like, after all of this discussion, the mayor was like, we're going to recess for 15 minutes. And then he came back and issued a directive with no discussion, just was like, and we're directing staff to do this. So clearly in the 15 minutes, the council had gone off and it's like, well, what do we do?
Wow.
Yeah, it gets heated. That's for sure. That's for sure. Hi, Valentine. Thank you for joining us. Just want to acknowledge you. Appreciate you. Get on.
Hi, Valentine.
She may or may not have audio. Great. Well, that was really good, meaty discussion. Is there anything anyone else wants to
Good
touch on in
meeting.
the last few minutes here?
No, good meeting. Good meeting. Thank you for everybody for their input. Really
All right,
appreciate it.
I do have a
No, we're
question.
not talking about pickleball anymore. We're
No.
very sorry.
It's not about, sorry, this isn't
You
about
have
pickleball.
outdone yourself on the pickleball, Claire.
It kind of made me want to play though. Like people are very, very passionate about it, or they're
No,
being
no, you
paid by
really
the
don't.
tennis association, but
Claire, I don't believe you're old enough to play pickleball in my experience.
Stick with tennis.
on acronyms, just a quick question on acronyms. So I'm doing Wilsonville, they're doing their transportation master plan update, which has a lot to do with SMART, which is an acronym for something. They never spell out the acronym.
Great. SMART is, I thought it might be it should be in our acronyms
Okay,
page on there, but SMART is basically the name of the transit organization in Wilsonville.
so just spell it
Wilsonville.
out the first time it's mentioned.
SMART, you don't have to spell it out. It's just SMART, all caps, every time it's
Okay.
referred to it. It's kind of one of those odd ones the whole city knows.
Okay, so I don't have to.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a weird, it's a weird acronym. Nobody spells it out. They just know SMART is the transit company.
Okay.
And that's
all right.
Wilsonville? That's Wilsonville?
That's
Yeah.
Wilsonville. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I made a note.
I don't
Thank
know if you guys saw the chat, but Valentine says her mic is misbehaving. Love the bubbliness. Keeping the meeting lively. Thanks, Valentine. We're not always this much fun. I mean, but mostly.
We're trying to keep it happy for you because we know it's the middle of the night.
Yes.
That's right.
It's 1:20 a.m.
Oh
That's
my
what I said.
gosh.
Oh.
That's
Oh
what
my
I said.
gosh.
It's the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh.
It
You want to
is.
keep, we just want to keep you on your toes, Valentine. This is how we welcome you.
I am. It's lovely. Thank you.
Well, you're lovely to do this at 1:20 in the morning. God love you.
So that really is all I had for today. I think, just some of the, I think also I have to say, it's really a acknowledgement and my admiration for how far all of you have come. I mean, when you first started transcribing and how your sentence structure was, or what you were pulling things around and moving stuff around, and now all of you are really just dialing things down. It's a process. There is no such thing as perfection. We're humans. And it's just a continual process, because it all goes to, it's all good work. It's all great work. We're just starting to finesse and bring our work and our product up to another level, so that our cities and our staff members trust that when they get a file from us, they know it's accurate to audio, it's grammatically correct. And it really does take a team to do that. And really your tenacity and keeping up with this process and sticking to it, it is not for the faint at heart. I think I've shared with a couple of you, when I first started this business, so wonderful story how I got started, but I remember literally working through a horrible long meeting with City of Wilsonville. They were doing like 4 and 5 hour meetings, putting in a big Fred Meyer, Fred Meyer is a big grocery store. I don't know if you're familiar with those, huge development in town. And I remember like coming in at like 1:30 in the morning to my husband, just bawling, like, I am never going to get this. And here we are, 17, almost 18 years later, we're still doing transcription, and we've got more clients than we know what to do with. So keep it up, keep up the good work, keep up the tenacity. I dearly appreciate every single one of you, all of your hard work, and love the questions. I love that we're doing this now. This is very helpful to me, and I hope you're getting a lot out of it as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Thank you. That's very nice of you. We'll
been very
continue to
helpful.
work with you. We're going to do the best we can. And as soon as we all learn how to pickleball, we're going to play pickleball. We're going to let you know.
We can
I'm
shoot for a
49.
couple
I'm
years
not
and
old
have a
enough.
conference. Yeah.
The Pickleball Association would tell you it's people of all ages,
ages.
and the people
That's
in the
right.
neighborhood would tell you that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
You're
Oh.
right, Claire. You are so right. We're going through it down here in St. Mary's.
Every
With-
single city, one of our cities have had the pickleball discussion.
Oh,
Every
yeah.
single one. Every
But
single
it's
one.
big. It's big all over the country now. I mean,
Yeah.
she took it and she ran with it. She made it the way she wanted it to go. And all of a sudden, everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Anybody over 10. So,
60.
Mhm.
And if they do all love it on the left coast, that just plays right into my stereotypes as a straight Southern white boy. Sorry. Just
Well-
tells me everything I need to know. Okay.
I think I have to defend a little, because I come from a little different. I don't want to be stereotyped being on the left coast. First of all, thank you, but there is maybe it's just our weather or what. I actually know a couple of friends that have gotten into the pickleball, and they're probably in their early 70s. They tour, they do the national competitions, they're having a blast. It's like, great for
Oh,
you,
yeah.
good for them,
Oh,
awesome, but just not for me right now, that's all. So
no.
Well, Chris, my father has sent me now several articles, one from the New York Times about the
Oh, no.
pickleball issue. Now I recognize I'm not on the left coast, but I am in New York, so maybe that's the difference.
Yeah. Well, I will freely grant in urban areas, your options are limited, so more power to you. But my sole experience with pickleball left me wanting. So to speak. I was like, no, this is not my game. And I've played a lot of sports. No, no.
Not my.
But what do
cup
I
of
know?
tea.
I live in a rural area. I've got thousands of acres of cotton back behind the house. So what do I know?
You have different opportunities.
Exactly.
go.
And dove season opens on Saturday.
Woohoo!
Oh, boy. I know, I won't call you.
I wasn't going to call you either. Call you on Sundays.
That's right, you did. Paula, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody else, for your input. I really, I made a
you.
lot of notes here now, so I'll just have to clarify everything and put my weekly note pad into my book here. So, but thank you. A lot of
I
good
really
points
do
were raised
appreciate
today.
it.
I think this is a great getting together. I really like this myself personally. I do. It's a big help for me.
It helps me a tremendous amount. So thank you guys for all tuning in. And Paula, I especially appreciate your time because learning curve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Glad to
you
have
very
all
much.
here.
No, this was helpful. Thank you.
Good. All right. Hang in there, everybody.
You
We'll
good?
see you next week.
Have a lovely Labor Day weekend, everybody.
Yes,
Oh,
my
yes.
goodness. Yes. Have a
Yes.
wonderful Labor Day weekend for sure.
I'll
Thank
do.
you, Colleen.
Okay.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.